Hello guys, this is Modest Major here, bringing you some commentary over some Halo 3 Master Chief Collection gameplay. I apologize if you're getting a bit bored of seeing only Halo 3. As I mentioned in my previous video, it is my favorite game on the collection. I've been playing a lot of Team Slayer, and Halo 3 is just the game that I will continually vote for pretty much every time I see it up. There's a lot of maps I enjoy on it. Maps like Orbital, maps like Narrows, maps like Pit. If I see one of them, there is absolutely no chance that I'm going to ignore them or avoid them. Just a chance to hold the sniper rifle on one of those enjoyable maps. It feels like that game is really heavily built around making interesting power positions for the sniper to use and making interesting lines of sight. I think that might be one of the reasons I enjoy the game, and also to say that the sniper is a really enjoyable and high skill curve weapon to use. There's a lot of satisfaction to be built from that, and I like trying to improve my Halo 3 sniper. It's definitely something I get a kick out of. But nonetheless, today I wanted to talk about something a little bit different. I wanted to talk about the Forge unveiling that we saw yesterday. This was quite a big deal for quite a few people. I think a lot of people were a little bit anxious and a little bit worried about what 343 had in store. We've been seeing each corner of the game. As you see me and Nick jump into each other in the most awkward way, we both get each other killed for the hype. I believe that guy just picked up a triple kill to start off his game, so that was an interesting play by the two of us. Nonetheless, I've been kind of interested to see Forge myself. Every other aspect of the game seems to be shaping up quite nicely, at least for my tastes. I'm kind of sold on the competitive arena multiplayer side of things. I'm sold on the campaign. I think the campaign's going to be one of the best we've seen to this day. And it just seems like they've got a really good blueprint set up for Halo 5, where it could have a viable future and it could go some way in making up the abomination that was Master Chief Collection and kind of bringing back 343's reputation and Halo's place in gaming. But the one question mark that we definitely had, well, there's a couple question marks we have, two of which are theater and file share, but I'll probably talk about those two in a different video. They kind of deserve a video of their own. But Forge specifically was definitely something that people were really questioning. I think when you think about the different sections of the community, it often comes down to you've got the matchmaking competitive guys, you've got the matchmaking social guys, you've got the campaign guys, you've got the custom game guys, and you've got the forgers. That for me are the really standout sections. I know there's like speedrunners and infection guys, but like I feel like you could group them in with other categories quite easily. And for me, the Forge, I was a little bit worried when they hadn't talked about it so close to the day, and I had been asking myself a question of, like, wouldn't they have wanted to show this off if this Forge was already looking tremendous, if it was really something to behold? There must be a reason that they're holding it back for so long. And I genuinely did have my reservations, and I was a bit worried that the Forge was just going to be a massive, massively underwhelming and a massive blow to the fans. But it turns out what's actually happened is that they wanted to put the resources into Forge, they wanted to make it as good as possible, but they've had to take a little bit more time to do so, and that's why the Forge we see is being delayed till December. And of course we saw the Twitterverse collectively losing its SHIT, and there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of arguments. You've got the cleanup side. It's usually the cleanup with the insanely positive frame of mind, with the somewhat overzealous at times of like, you better like Halo and you better enjoy yourself or I'm gonna slap you around the face. And then you've got this other side of the community, which is like an amalgamation of Elementary type people, where he's really reserved about Halo and its current standings. And I think both sides of the argument definitely have its pros and cons. It helps to be a little bit reserved and a little bit critical and have a bit of foresight when it comes to the game, and say, not pretend that everything's perfect, not pretend that everything's sunshine and rainbows all the time, because obviously it won't be. We've seen in the past that obviously it hasn't been. But then at the same time, there is definitely a limit on how critical I feel like you should be, when you're going to be holding back your own gaming experiences, and you're going to be clouding your own perception and judgment by being negative before there's enough evidence to being negative. And with this Forge side of things, I kind of fall somewhere in the middle. I didn't really make any tweets and really make any judgments at the time because, I didn't want to make a rash decision. I think it's a very complicated gray area when it comes to getting a piece of content from the game a little bit later is obviously not an ideal state of mind. You know, Halo is packed, jam-packed with content, and yeah, from the perspective of if you're a multiplayer player, if you're a campaign guy, you're getting the Halo that you deserve. But a lot of players in the community, they really have enjoyed their Forge since day one. I've been friends with a lot of people who, you know, day one of when a Halo game comes out, their first thing is to test out the forging and to test out how to make a map, and they want to make the community happy, and that's what really gives them a buzz. You know, maybe they haven't got the skills to pay the bills in the competitive side of thing. Maybe they don't want to play around and goof around in customs day one, but they want to make the customs. They want to make the community happy. Guys like Crazy Spartan are obviously what initially comes to mind. Guys like Sal from Twitter. These guys like really put a lot of work into their map. Salot, I should say. I got Salot confused with Reclaimer Sal. My bad. There's a lot of people on Twitter. Okay, moving forward. Like guys like these, you know, they invest their heart and soul into it, and we shouldn't be overlooking these guys. We shouldn't be saying, well, I got my piece of Halo, you know, multiplayer, or my piece of Halo campaign. I don't lose anything from this. I can afford to wait a month. But it's a little bit harsh for the guys who are really invested in the Forge side of things, and it's been a staple of Halo ever since Halo 3. Nonetheless, I do think there is a little bit of melodrama. I do think there is a little bit of overreacting in terms of, you know, the sky is falling. I don't necessarily think the sky is falling. I think I do think there is something to be said for the fact that we are getting BTB a little bit later, and then we're also getting Forge. I think that's a little bit dubious, and I think the way that they went around announcing this in their bulletin was a little bit questionable as well, because I don't feel like they made it immediately obvious. I think if you want to give a blow to the community, you got to be upfront about it, and usually you either put it at the end paragraph, or you put it at the beginning paragraph, because, you know, people are either going to skim to the end and try and find the conclusion, or they're going to read the beginning and then immediately see what they need to see. You know, I'm a skim reader myself, and that's what I can say I do. I like read to the beginning, maybe look a tiny bit in the middle, and then go right to the end. And yeah, that's what I did, and I didn't see that announcement. And I go on Twitter a little bit later, and then everyone's like losing their shit, and I'm like, what's going on? And then they're like, it's coming out in December. I'm like, what? Excuse me? I didn't see this. But nonetheless, you know, previous Forge iterations we did see some deal of disappointment with. I would say that the H2A Forge was very... I mean, it wasn't a poor implementation. I'd say aesthetically it looked pretty bad. It didn't really look like it had gone a step up above Halo 4. In some ways, I think it looked a little bit less good looking. The actual building structures that they chose, they were very grey and dull, and it was going a bit back to the Halo Reach aesthetics, which I wasn't a gigantic fan of. And, you know, maybe you can go back to Halo 4 and you can say that they didn't have as much space and creativity and flexibility to work with as you'd seen in Halo Reach. So I do kind of understand why they took this path of like saying, hey, you're going to get it, and it's going to be better than ever, but it's going to be in December. The way I'm seeing it currently right now, it is a put the money where your mouth is type of situation. If you say it's going to be better, if you say it's going to be bigger than ever before, you know, the only way I see the situation is that they've put themselves up to fail. You know, they've set themselves up to fail. They've done this in the past when they said Master Chief Collection was going to be the greatest thing ever. They're going to put all the games into it. They're going to do this and that and this and that. You know, they set themselves up to fail, and they had to take the blame because, you know, they bulked up the marketing, they bulked up the hype, they got everyone super involved, and they had to take the punishment. And I think Forge is another situation where, like, you know, they've said the Forge is going to be better than ever. They say it's going to be worth waiting. They're going to have to take the blame and be culpable and responsible for the consequences. Because I do honestly think there is enough in this game that if Forge was super strong and super, you know, the best that we've probably seen by quite some wide margin, I do think there is enough in the base game package that we are getting in terms of, you know, 20 plus arena multiplayer maps, a really sizable campaign. They say it's going to be bigger in terms of scope than any Halo campaign we've seen before. And then in terms of like the Warzone mode, I think we're seeing more features and more... you know, they've got one of the biggest Halo maps of all time being featured in Warzone, and then you've got the rec cards, you've got the amount of customization on offer. There really is a lot to be brought to the table by Halo, so I do think there is enough to keep you going for 1 month, but if it extends past that point, if the Forge isn't up to scratch, I would say if it's not the best we've ever seen, then I think that's when people can start raising the pitchforks, and there'll be a little bit more, you know, impact behind that, because right now I think people are just, you know, it's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, I feel like, to some extent. And it sucks that people who love the Forge and are super into the Forge are basically getting their Halo game a little bit later. I can empathize with that. They're not getting perhaps the full package that you might have seen in a Halo game previously. But in some of the more recent Halo games, you've got to admit that like there have been sizable chunks of the game missing in each Halo game. In H2A, we missed file share, we missed you know, the custom game options that we would have maybe preferred, we missed Forge implementation in matchmaking. There was a lot missing from the offering, and then in Halo 4, the ranked systems weren't put in place properly. In fact, MCC, you can say the same about. The rank systems weren't put in place properly, the maps weren't put in place properly, so I can understand this tiny little delay just to make sure that the game is perfect. It sucks that Forge had to take the hit, don't get me wrong, but I think the Forgers are going to be happy and they're going to forget about this if they get their offering in December. If we get a situation that is similar to what we saw in Halo 4, where we got our ranking systems, they were meant to be brought to us in January, which was kind of annoying in of itself, and then we got it even later, that would just be unacceptable. And I think 343 are going to take the brunt of the blame. They're going to lose pretty much any loyalty and any optimism that a lot of the Halo fan base had. I think Halo 5 is make or break, and I think, you know, there's got to be some understanding of that. And I still don't think the sky is necessarily falling. I may be being overly optimistic. Let me know in the comment section if you feel I am. But those are just my honest opinions from the top of the dome. I've been Modest Major. I hope you guys enjoyed this commentary. Thanks for watching. Peace out.